Right, well, we'll get started. Thank you so much for joining me this evening on quite a rainy, grey evening here in Wiltshire, in the southwest of England. But happy to be chatting about somewhere that's, I'm hoping, a little bit sunnier at the moment. We are talking today about Boschendal, which is our client down in the Cape Winelands in South Africa. Boschendal is one of the oldest, well, it is the second oldest and the second largest wine estate in South Africa. It is 1,800 hectares. It has been established since 1685. And it is just so steeped in history. It's in the most beautiful place. Anyone who's been to the Cape Winelands knows how stunning it is down here, with the vineyards, with the backdrop of the mountains. And then there is just so much to do on Boschendal, on the farm, and in the surrounding area. It really is an incredible destination. So Boschendal is located about an hour outside of Cape Town, and it's about a 40 to 45 minute drive from the airport out to Boschendal. So you're a little bit further from Cape Town, and Cape Town Airport's just sort of east of Cape Town. And we are then equidistant between Paarl, Franschhoek and Stellenbosch. So three hotspots in the winelands, and really beautiful areas to explore. So when you're staying at Boschendal, you've got a really great kind of vantage point to explore those areas from. We're also, the garden route, a great sort of starting point for guests traveling along the garden route, and heading out to Hermanus as well. So as I said, this is the second largest wine farm in South Africa, and we are also a working farm in other areas as well. So obviously Boschendal produces a lot of wine, and then also produces a lot of other produce. So we have cattle, sheep, pigs, chickens. We've got lots of different fruit trees, lots of fruit and vegetables grown here as well. So the farm is a constant hive of activity. When you stay here, you can very much expect to see tractors driving around, often loaded up with grapes, or workers picking the fruit, and things like that. And we try to weave that throughout as much of the guest experience as possible. So things like when it's citrus harvest season, guests can get involved and pick their own citrus fruits. When we have plum season, which I think is March, we do a whole plum festival, and people come from all over to harvest the plums and pick their own. And it's a really lovely kind of interactive experience here. So when you're traveling around the farm, you can see elements of that kind of working farm throughout your stay. This is hopefully a very handy map. I found it very handy, of the farm. So the farm is kind of split into two sides, and the farm itself is so much bigger than just this map, but this is kind of what you need to know from a guest's point of view. So we are split across the middle with the road that runs between Franschhoek and Stellenbosch, and actually this actually makes for a really nice divide between the two sides of the farm. So on the bottom half of this map here, we have got what we could sort of call the main side, and you come in through the gate here and head off to the left, or as you're looking at it here, the right, and you have our accommodation reception down here. So guests who are staying overnight can come and check in here. And then we have the kind of main VAF areas, the main farmyard area. We've got the main manor house just up here. This is actually now an art gallery. We've also got our restaurants. So we've got the VAF restaurant and the deli restaurant. We've got the farm shop and butcher, and we've also got our homeware store as well. So this whole area is a real hive of activity. And actually, we do get day visitors coming to dine here and to meet for coffee, and it's always a really buzzy vibe down here. We then have our VAF garden suites just here, the large and small, and then we have Clarence Cottage, which is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom cottage, and this is the only accommodation available on this side of the farm. So really nice for those guests who want to be kind of in the thick of it, close to the main area. I mean, they're surrounded by loads of gardens. You'd hardly know the cottages are there, but it's really nice to be able to kind of walk to the main area and things like that. And then off to the left here, or if you come in the gates, you kind of go off to the right. This is called the Roan Homestead area. So this is kind of where a lot of our day guests come, guests who are coming in for wine tastings or big groups coming in off the wine tram. They come down here to the Roan Homestead. There's a small kind of version of like the homewares and the deli, food store as well, and this kind of acts as the area that those kind of big groups head off to. They can have a full Boschendal experience, but it also means that we're kind of dispersing the crowds just a little bit. Now, on the other side of the farm, this is kind of where the bulk of the accommodation is. So we have got our orchard cottages just here in the middle. We've got our retreat cottages here over on the right, and up here is our new cowshed cottage. We then have cottage 1685, which is the total opposite of cowshed. It is the oldest cottage on the property, and we then have our mountain villa up the top here. So when you're over on this side of the farm, to get down to the main area, generally we recommend guests drive, and we do have porters on the property who can drive guests down, especially if they're going for a wine tasting or something, or they haven't self-driven, and they, fair enough, don't want to drive themselves. Excuse me. Sorry. And so, yeah, guests can be driven by a porter down to the main side of the farm. So heading on to a little bit more about the accommodation options. So we'll start with the retreat cottages. These are the ones just up here on the right-hand side. We have 18 two-bedroom and two-bathroom cottages here. And these were renovated last year, so they're looking really beautiful and new. We had these gorgeous new decked areas built out the front and the back of these cottages, and so really lovely outdoor space. We have the ability to have a twin room in one of the rooms and double in the other. One has an ensuite, and there is also a main bathroom, and then there's a lovely kitchen and living and kind of dining area as well. So all of the cottages have got beautiful fireplaces. They've got braai facilities, so guests can go down to the farm shop and buy their produce and come back up and have a braai, and not kind of feel like they have to go out for dinner every evening. We also at the retreat have a little restaurant here and a boma area, and the restaurant is where guests will have their breakfast. So it's sort of different on the in all of the different categories, but breakfast is included for all room categories, and retreat guests will have their breakfast here at the retreat restaurant. So this area kind of lends itself really well to big groups. We quite often get wedding parties who take the whole of the retreat, because then they have their own private kind of dining area as well. You've got your private boma area, and also there is a natural pool here as well. There's also conference facilities here, so great for mice groups and things like that, and then also a reception area at this pocket of cottages, and that's something that is gradually being rolled out across the property. So those kind of pockets of cottages, they will all have their own reception area eventually, which is really nice because you are further from the main area, you're further from the main accommodation reception, so it's nice to have a point of contact in the day that's close by to your cottage. Then the orchard cottages. So this is where we don't have a reception area at the moment, but that is being implemented. And we have got everything from a 1-bedroom up to a 4-bedroom cottage here. And these are really, really awesome for families. So in my head, I always think the retreat cottages are great for families with older kids. You've kind of got those beautiful winding paths, lots of tall grasses and gardens throughout. And I always think the orchard cottages are wonderful for guests with smaller children because you've got these beautiful wide open lawns. Kids can just run free at Boschendal. They can just, they can be loud, they can be themselves, and you can sit here on your veranda and watch the kids kind of run around and play. And so it feels much more open. So I think it's lovely for families with smaller children. So we've got 4 1-bedroom. We then have our 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, which are actually currently being converted into 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So we will now have 8 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom cottages here. And then we have a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom cottage. And again, they all have got their little kitchen areas. They've all got braai facilities, dining areas and living areas here. So you can really have a super private stay where you just kind of hole up in your cottage, light the fire if it's the winter time. But you also have that lovely option of heading down to the restaurants as well and being part of the action and getting involved in lots of activities. So you kind of can have the best of both worlds. We have a pool here and a lovely boma area, and as you can see, the elevated views from here are absolutely incredible. It feels like you're kind of at the top of this open plain, and it is really, really stunning. We then have our VAF garden suites. So these are those, the option that's on the main side of the farm. And we have got 4 large and 3 small suites here. These are kind of the, what could be considered kind of the most 5-star cottage on the property. And they also come with a complimentary chocolate and wine pairing for all guests staying here. So this is the large garden suite. It has got this day bed, which we can convert into a single bed for a child. So while these cottages tend to kind of lend themselves more to couples, you can add one small child into the larger suites. And as you can see, they've got that beautiful kind of farmhouse heritage vibe to them. Again, little kitchenette and braai area too. And there's also a private pool here, which when you walk through the sort of wooded area behind the pool, you get to Clarence Cottage. Clarence Cottage is the best kind of family option on the main side of the farm. It's 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It's also our kind of secret cottage because it's not seen or available on our live inventory. So this is on request only. So if you know about it, you can request it with the reservations team. You have, again, walking distance from the main VAF area, and you make use of the same swimming pool as the VAF garden suites. Again, you've got a beautiful fireplace, you've got a lovely big kitchen and living area, and it has been recently renovated as well. As you can kind of tell, it's got this really cool interiors. We then head up to Cottage 1685. So this is actually a South African National Heritage Site. It's my personal favourite cottage on the property. I absolutely love the kind of the heritage vibe that's here, the thatched roof. It is just simply stunning, and it has been kept so beautifully. You actually have 3 bedrooms in the main house, and then you have a 2-bedroom annex here. So it works really well for a kind of multi-gen family or a group. It's privately hosted up here, so guests will have breakfast at the cottage. It's got a beautiful private pool, and as you can see, it's that you know, being a heritage site, it's a bit like listed buildings in the UK. You can't do a huge amount in terms of changing the structure of it. So we've been able to really retain a lot of that beautiful heritage kind of feeling here. We kind of have updated some of it, so we've got the modern touches, but you know, things like those beautiful dark wood floorboards are still very much there. We have the private pool at the back area here, and it's just surrounded by the mountains, so it just looks absolutely incredible. You drive up a really long driveway to get up to the to 1685, and it's situated at the end of this long driveway, lined by fruit trees, and then you've got the mountains behind it, and it is really, really striking, particularly on arrival. And it was actually built originally for Cecil John Rhodes, who did own the farm at one point in its very long history. So he is also responsible for a lot of the fruit trees that were planted on the farm, which is a really big part of what Boschendal do now. He did only manage to stay in it once before he passed away. But yeah, it was kind of built for him. And then it has since had many, many other owners and guests live and stay here. We now have got Cowshed Cottage. This is opposite end of the spectrum. This is brand new on the inventory. It was very recently renovated, and it's a beautiful 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom private cottage. So the other 2 private cottages kind of are sort of, I guess, the other 2-bedroom cottages are kind of part of other sections of the property. So you've got the retreat and the orchard cottages, and then you've got the VAF side of the farm. This is standalone by itself, so it's beautiful and really private. Again, right at the base of the mountains, just on the other side of the farm to 1685, and overlooking the valley, and it is just the most incredible views from up here, and the interiors are so stunning. So this is kind of private cottage. You would head down to the main VAF area for things like breakfast and meals, but again, you've got braai facilities here too, so you kind of can make the most and have sort of private dinners. You have the most incredible views from up here. You are sort of at the kind of highest point of any of the cottages. You're overlooking the whole of the farm. Absolutely stunning. You've got 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, so this kind of sleeps about 12 packs, and it is privately hosted up here as well. So You dine completely privately up here if guests don't want to head down to the main restaurants. You've got a private pool. You actually have a private lake at the back as well, beautiful open lawns, and then a private lake, and these incredible, just, you know, really high ceilings, beautiful bedrooms overlooking the mountains and overlooking the valley, and then this gorgeous outdoor space with braai facilities, pizza oven. It would just be incredible for kind of outdoor hosting here. It is like the dream. So it is a very, very beautiful spot up here at the top of the property. So in terms of inclusions in the accommodation, as I said before, it's all B&B as standard. So and where you have your breakfast depends on what cottages you're staying in. So as I said, the retreat have their own private restaurant there. The orchard cottages and the Vaff garden suites would dine at the and the cowshed cottage will dine at the main Vaff restaurant, and then Mountain Villa and Cottage 1685 are privately hosted, and you have breakfast at the cottage. Included as well is a guided hike. So you get a permit for the mountain biking and hiking trails included in the accommodation options, but we also include a guided hike because it's a really lovely way to get to know the trails. It's nice doing it kind of on your first or second morning, so that you do it early on in your stay. You can get an idea of the history of the farm. You can see, I mean, you get to sort of see and experience how enormous the farm is as well, because you can kind of see where it starts and ends up there. And it's lovely having a guide to impart some knowledge. You know, they all have different interests and skill sets. So you might get a guide who's really interested in the flora and the fauna, or one that's really interested in the heritage of the property. But in general, it's a really, really interesting experience. We then also do a guided walking tour of the farm as well, included in the accommodation. And that's a really nice way to get an idea of the kind of the way Boschendal farms, the sustainability side of things, and also just understand where your food is coming from when you're staying here at Boschendal. And speaking of food, we have the Vaff restaurant. So this is one of 2 restaurants on the property. This is kind of where I would say the chefs have can really use their creativity. You are looking out over the farm gardens, and so you're looking out over where a lot of the fresh fruit and vegetables, or particularly fresh vegetables, come from, and they are really they really let the produce kind of do the talking here. The menu can change almost daily, and sometimes more than daily, because they are using what they have available at the time. And it is really, really amazing. They do a winemaker's dinner here once a month, and it's the first Thursday of the month. So you can never guarantee that your guests are going to be able to go, because obviously it's quite specific. But when I was there, I got to experience that, and it was really incredible. We had the winemakers come in, and basically the chefs create the food based on the wine the winemakers have chosen, which is obviously the opposite way around to what it is often, how it's often done. So it was a really interesting experience, and I have to say I did have to loosen my belt quite a few times during that dinner. We then, of course, have got wine tasting. I feel like I sometimes gloss over the wine tasting because I feel like it's a given, but we have different wine pairings that guests can enjoy. So that's cheese and wine, chocolate and wine, charcuterie. We actually now do kind of like a brunch flight with wine as well. So there's lots of different options for guests, or you can just have straight wine by itself. And that is often done down at the Vaff, the main Vaff area. We have our deli restaurant, and this is kind of where you get those more hearty, traditional South African meals. It's a great brunch restaurant. It's also open for dinner every day, so you can come down here and have some pizzas or burgers. It's a bit more kind of casual and down to earth. Great coffee and cake, and also attached to that is the farm shop as well. We have our Vaff picnics, which are obviously a huge part of what we do at Boschendal. It's a really, Boschendal's very well known for their picnics, and it's just such an amazing vibe down here. You get these gorgeous picnic baskets filled with so much fresh produce, obviously from the farm. Grab a bottle of wine, you sit down on the low rest back chairs, play some lawn games, listen to live music, and it really is the best way to while away an afternoon here, particularly if the sun is shining. It has an extra special vibe. As I said, we have our farm shop that's sort of near the deli, and this you really could go to town here. It's lovely when you're staying on the property to be able to kind of pick and choose whether you want to go for dinner one night, or if you want to make, do your own braai or just have some salads. And they sell everything here, from kind of ready meals, which are incredible, not like the stuff you get in the supermarket here. And you can get fresh fruit and veg, you can get incredible cuts of meat, and you can go and do your own braai. Of course, you can grab some wine as well. And they also have, lots of other things like cordials and chutneys and things like that, things that you might more easily be able to actually take home with you. We then, in terms of activities, I've obviously ticked off quite a few while I've been chatting, but Boschendal has such a wealth of activities. And if you're staying in the Winelands, it's a really great place to base yourself, to make the most of all the activities that you have here on the farm, as well as the incredible amount of activities that you have in the area as well. So I mentioned mountain biking. We've got amazing world-class mountain biking trails here. The Cape Classic actually comes through Boschendal's trails. You can do everything from as extreme as this guy to kind of just pootling around the farm on a bike, which is more my kind of speed, I think. Seeing the farm on horseback is also an incredible way to do it. It's quite unique. You get around a bit quicker than you do on foot, and it's a really lovely way to experience the farm. And all abilities are welcome. We have our Friday night markets. These have kicked off again now that we're moved into the summer season, and it's such a cool vibe down at the sort of kind of main farmyard area with the Friday night markets on. They've got lots of different stalls selling lots of different food and drink, live music. You can sit down and have a beer and just enjoy an incredible vibe here. So these are every Friday at the moment, weather permitting, and are enjoyed by guests staying on the farm, and also locals in the local area. So it has a really cool vibe here. I also mentioned, I think earlier, the farm tours that are obviously included, and then we have the Norval Gallery, the art gallery in the Manor House. This is sponsored by Norval Foundation, and it is changed sort of every so often. So it's a really cool place to come and view the art here. Also, what's very cool about the Manor House is they have kept a lot of the original features. So you can really see, like here around the door, the kind of original features of what would the Manor House might have looked like at one point, which I think is, just for anyone who's a bit of a history nerd, is really, really interesting. We also have our homewares store. The Small Marketing girls have definitely spent a bit of money in there. It's lovely to be able to take home something from your stay at Boschendal. If I could have taken home far more, I definitely would have, but I didn't have space in my suitcase. But things like candles, there's beautiful tea towels, there's lots of kitchenware. I've got a beautiful apron from here as well. So yeah, lots and lots to be browsed through in there. We also have our treehouse. So this is our Kids Edu-Play Centre. This is an awesome activity for the younger guests. And it's really nice for mum and dad to be able to head off and have a wine tasting and know that their kids are going to have an awesome time, be very well entertained, and also learn a lot while they're here. So we've got the treehouse playground. We also have the outdoor farm experience. So kids come down, they have I think it's 2 or 3 hour time slot, and they get their little boots and their hat and their locker, and then they head out on the farm and do all sorts of activities. So there's one activity that teaches them about recycling and how to make things from things that some people might view as rubbish. There's also one that's all about kind of food and the kind of cycle of farming that Boschendal kind of adheres to, and they can go out and collect chickens from the eggs and come back and make omelettes, or they can make pizzas for lunch. So there's a lot that they do here that's really interactive. They will have the best time, and they will learn a lot as well. And that is me. I hope I didn't rattle through that too fast. I also hope I didn't go on for too long. So here you can see I've got the contact details for Karen, head of sales, and also Blanche, who actually that needs to be corrected because she is now sales manager. And she is really our main point of contact at Boschendal. So we liaise mostly with Blanche. She is comes out to the UK as often as possible. She's currently actually in Germany doing some sales trips. So if you've ever got questions, please do reach out to Blanche, or of course to myself or Anita, and we're more than happy to help with anything. This webinar has been recorded, so if you've missed anything or if you want to rewatch, you can catch it on our YouTube channel, and we will also be sending out a follow-up, which will be sent in the next couple of days and contain kind of everything you might need to be selling Boschendal. But thank you so much for joining me. If you've got any questions, do please pop them in the Q&A now. If not, hopefully I've answered them all, but if you think of anything afterwards, do pop me an email or give us a call. I'm more than happy to help whenever. Thank you so much.